Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I have the best music here on YouTube. Thanks for agreeing with me, and thanks for listening to this beautiful music. I look a little bit weird. I look even bald. That's because I'm not using the camera that I'm normally using. It's because yesterday my cat walked into my office and knocked over the camera, the stand where the camera is on. And the camera has a cable connected, which transmits the image to my computer. And when the camera fell down, the cable broke. I was hoping it would still work, but I just found out it doesn't work. So I had to switch and use a worse camera. But please bear with me. You're not missing much anyway. Abdullah Samir, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. The channel just got to 20,000 subscribers, so I'm happy, on the way, slowly getting there. But yeah, doing good.
That's fantastic. So how is it to have a channel with 20,000 subscribers?
Yeah, it's kind of sad considering my other one's at 60,000 now.
Yeah.
But it's crippled, right? It's not only the monetization, there's also strikes on it. Like there's still a strike, so I had to do it. I had to start from scratch, right? Other friend Haris Sultan also, made that decision, that really difficult decision of starting from scratch as well, because he had 2 strikes. So you know how it is. You don't get second chances on YouTube, so you gotta do the grind all over. So it is what it is.
You guys just have to behave. Like, stop being such a bad guys. Be like me. Be more friendly. Be more good.
Yeah.
Then you will have a safe space here on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, again, and welcome. Yesterday we were supposed to go live 1 hour ago yesterday, but then my son, my 1-year-old son, he was quite sick, and I had to take care of him. I couldn't. He wouldn't stop crying, so I had.
Is he doing better now?
Yeah, he's doing significantly better. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I guess he just had like a stomach virus or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, today we are here. In other news, Ali Dawa just agreed to have a public debate with me. I offered that we should have a debate on January 15th. Unfortunately, he said, no, I can't do that. I can't do that because in January I am filming. I was like, what are you filming? He said, I'm filming my marriage documentary. I was like, are you kidding me? I heard of that like 5 years ago. Weren't you filming something like that 5 years ago? And he said, yeah. And now it's like, I have to do it in January. I'm like, okay, great, fantastic. So he's filming a documentary for his followers, giving them advice on how to get married, which is why we have to wait for him. And we will probably have a debate in May. So that's the news on my side. But today we want to talk about the Ismaili faith or sect, or movement or branch within Islam, within Shia Islam. Is that right? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, and I actually have some slides if you want to just share my screen. I can.
Oh, yes. Of course we can.
Okay, awesome. There we go. So yeah, so I haven't so let's just go to this. Okay, so just first of all, just to get this out of the way, I was never a religious Ismaili. I was what you could say a nominal Ismaili. I was like one of those guys that, those fake ex-Muslim. Well, I was one of those fake ex-Ismailis. I was never really into it, but I did pray. I did, I used to go to the mosque or the Jamaat Khana. I used to do the stuff, I did the rituals. I believed in it to some level of belief. I used to believe in it. But after that, I became Sunni, and I became very Sunni. Like it became like a very serious part of my life. So much so that like I know more about Sunnism than I know about Ismailism, which is funny because I was born into Ismailism, but I never took it seriously. I converted, I became a zealot, and I became a fundamentalist, if you want to call it that. And I just deep dove and, so the first thing that people, the first thing to keep in mind is I do have a bias. I'm just going to be totally fair. I don't want to strawman the religion. I'm going to do my very best not to strawman. And I know you have a conversation coming up with Dr. Khalil Andani. So it'll be spicy to see if he disagrees with any of. He definitely disagrees with a lot of my views. but it'll be as long as I'm not like misrepresenting the religion. I don't want to do that. I want to be fair. I want to accurately say it is what it is. And then, if I disagree with him, that's fine. We disagree. But yeah, that's basically my take on that. So I have a Sunni bias. Obviously, I chose to become Sunni. I didn't choose to be Ismaili. I was born into it. You know how the Prophet said every parent makes you a Muslim. Yeah, so I was, and Ismailis are Muslim, right? Like I used to think Ismailis were not Muslim, believe it or not. As a Salafi, I was like, yeah, Ismailis are not Muslim. I was that extreme. I'm like, yeah, you guys, my dad's not Muslim. You guys are not Muslim, whatever, right?
So you didn't choose Ismailism. Ismailism chose you, and then you became
Yeah.
very Sunni, and then you looked back at Ismailism and you thought, this is fake. This is nonsense.
That's exactly right. Ismailism was fake,
Okay.
but Sunnism was not fake.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Yeah. How come you have a background in Ismailism in your family background? How is
So
that?
yeah, so the history is like this. My dad is Ismaili, my mom is Sunni, and we were born in Kenya. My parents were born in Kenya, my grandparents were born in Kenya. I guess at some point in our history, my dad's family converted to Ismailism, probably from Hinduism, maybe. I don't know, or maybe from, I'm not sure from like, I don't know how far back the Ismailism goes, but I do know that I was raised as an Ismaili.
Interesting. What we do know is, what people usually do not know, is that Ismailism actually has a quite prominent history in the past. It became irrelevant after a point and is very much unknown today. But in the past, the Fatimid Empire was the Fatimid Caliphate was actually an Ismaili caliphate or imamate or whatever it's called. So
Exactly,
the
yeah.
Ismailis were actually in power at some point, although
Exactly.
today they are very weak. But yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily weak, but yeah, well, I'm going to talk about that. So the funny thing is, when I converted from Ismaili to Sunni, no Sunni ever told me or challenged me as to the validity of my former religion. Now, again, I'm saying former religion. Okay, maybe it's the same. Maybe we can call it the same religion. It's just semantics. I don't mean to say Ismailis are not Muslim. I don't believe Ismailis are not Muslim. I believe very much so that Ismailism is one manifestation of the religion of Islam. I very much believe that today, and I have no reason to not believe that. But as a very rigid fundamentalist Salafi, so when I say formal religion, I just mean formal sect. Just don't misinterpret or don't overanalyze what I'm trying to say there. So no Sunni ever said that to me, which is kind of funny because, of course, the first thing that's said to you when you leave Islam is like, hey, you were never a proper Sunni, right? You were not a proper Muslim, right? And like I get comments like this: you were an Ismaili, and stop calling yourself ex-Muslim because you weren't even one. So these are Sunnis telling me this. Here's another one, dude. You're an ex-Ismaili. Why do you act like an ex-Muslim? You are faked. Okay, whatever. The cursed one died of stomach cancer, posed himself. Whatever. Oh, he's talking about Nabil. What a pathetic person to bring up Nabil Qureshi's death.
I even get the same thing because I was Sufi at some point as a Muslim, and Sufis are even part of the regular mainstream Sunni Islam. So
yeah, exactly. It's pathetic. But anyways, here's another one. Oh, so you're never Muslim. Why are you misleading people by calling yourself an ex-Muslim? Okay, so that's enough of that. So the first thing is, people need to keep in mind, I was not Qadiani or Ahmadi. This is the most common mislabeling or misconception. People always confuse Ismailism and Ahmadiyya. They're totally different. Ahmadiyya is a branch, you can say, that went off Sunnism. They're basically like Sunnis. They pray like Sunnis. They fast like, they're pretty much, if you see an Ahmadiyya, you would not know they're not Sunni. They're like pretty much Sunni, except they're not Muslim according to Sunnis because their beliefs are a little bit different. Ismailis is not like that. Ismailis, you will know an Ismaili when you see an Ismaili because they're an offshoot or they're a branch of Shiism, and so it's different, right? So I'm gonna explain how it's different. Ismailis today, there's like probably about 15 million of them. That's the leader of the Ismailis, Aga Khan. So he's basically the manifest living imam. Okay, he's basically the leader of Ismailis, the Ismaili community. Now, okay, so before I bash Ismailism, let's talk about the good things in Ismailism. Okay, the first thing is less burden on most believers. So what I mean by this is I converted from Ismaili to Sunni. And when I was Ismaili, I was able to basically live my life, go for prayers, do everything I was supposed to do as an Ismaili. And there was no penalty on my life. There was no burden, really speaking. I mean, I could have done more if I wanted to, but it's made easy. Like the prayers are done at convenient times. There's like it's just like it's made to be, pluralistic. One of the former imams of Ismailism was basically this guy that was, I guess, I don't know if you want to call him a reformist or a modernist. He was all into, going with the times, not falling behind and being rigid and fundamentalist. So very forward thinking, let's put it like that, right?
So he was very much a kafir.
Yeah. So he was very much in favor, and Ismailism has gone in that direction. Whoa, you're changing colors. Whoa. Yeah, so there's basically two sects. There's Bohras and there's Ismailis. And the Bohras went the opposite direction. They became very like, they continued a lot of those things the old-fashioned way, whereas the Ismailis went the other direction, very modernist, right? So again, I hope I'm not misconstruing it, but this is something Ismailis are usually proud of. Now, this is actually the second point is actually that there's actually a big issue with Sunnism, which is that which scholar do you trust? Like, if I tell you I like this scholar, someone else might say he's a bad scholar. And there's no way to know. Like, you know how people say ask the imam? Well, which imam do you ask? All the imams disagree on almost everything. So it's like you have to figure out with your limited intellect who to trust. But that person who you're trusting is going to tell you what to do. But you don't, like, how would you know which one to choose? Like, you just have to go based on the piety, I guess. Do they look religious? Do you trust them? Do they have some background in Islamic studies? But if they have a background and they look like a nice person, but they could still be wrong, right? So there's not really any like for sure way of knowing. Whereas with Ismailism, there's one guy, and he is the kind of like the imam of the entire community, and he just comes up with whatever. For example, and this is kind of weird, but one of the imams back then, he was like, okay, we don't need hijab anymore, and we don't need to, like, the Jamaat Khanas or the mosque, they don't always face the Qibla. That's not an issue. We don't need to worry about. So he decides. He's the one that interprets the Quran. He's the one that rules in favor of basically God.
So, how is it now? Do they
Yes.
now observe certain things like hijab and?
So Ismailis are like, again, it's very, very different. There's no hijab. There's no wudu. There's no Hajj.
What?
I mean, you can go for Hajj if you want to, but it's not obligation. You don't have to fast Ramadan. They don't. It all depends on what the imam says, right? So Aga Khan, I showed you his picture. He's the one that decides. And so the actual prayer itself, the Ismaili holy dua, and we'll get to that. That's all done by him and the Aga Khan, I guess, the religious foundation and all that, right? So it's you wouldn't recognize it as Islam. Let's just put it like that. If you saw an Ismaili, you wouldn't know the Muslim because they tend to fit in the society. They tend to be like regular. They don't necessarily drink alcohol or eat pork or have premarital sex, but for the most part, you wouldn't know. There's no distinctive beard or anything. There's no hijab. There's no. I don't know what to say.
James said, "Darn you, fake ex-Muslims causing problems." LOL. It's nice to see you, James. Nice to see you. Yeah, so with Ismailism, you basically have this whole thing. It is centralized, whereas in Sunni Islam, for example, you have people across the globe, and they can ask specific scholars, and the scholars all disagree with each other, and they all use these constant debates on what is right and what is wrong. In Ismailism, you are very much dependent on a central power, a central leader who tells you what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get to the downsides of that as well after. So
I can imagine.
But that's basically like what you said. And then of course there's also women's rights. Ismailism is far more progressive. I've said this so many times. Progressive. It's way more progressive. and there's a strong community. So I'll give you an example of how it's progressive. So in Ismailism, you can have a male, like it's not the imam, they're called Muki Sahib, but you can have a male and female one. Actually, I'll leave that for later because I have a slide on that. Let's talk about the strong community. So there's a strong community back in Africa when my parents were affected by Idi Amin. Idi Amin was this like black nationalist dictator, like guy, fascist, I should say, that wanted to kick all of the Indians out of Africa. And when this happened, where's my notes here? Yeah, so basically the Aga Khan at the time, so it's a hereditary, like I told you, it goes from child to child, from son or grandson to, at the time, he was the imam. He phoned his longtime friend, Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. So he called up Trudeau, the old Trudeau, not the new one. And Trudeau agreed to let some Ismailis come to Canada. And actually, my uncle was one of the ones that came. And I think my grandparents came to Canada because of this. So the community helps each other. The Ismaili connection it's good. It's a small community, but it's like you have access to things that as a Sunni you wouldn't, because there's no central authority, there's no central bank. We don't have any of that, right? So this is kind of like a good thing.
I'm getting big cult vibes here.
I agree with you. Wait till we get to that point. Like, yes,
okay, yeah.
It does have a lot more feel. It does have a lot more culty feel to it for sure, because we'll get to it. We'll get to that. Okay. So here, like I was telling you, involvement of women. Imagine seeing a mosque like this.
Whoa.
Like there's a bunch.
Man. This is unacceptable.
Men and women, and my stepmother, she's heavily involved in the Khane. She's like a volunteer, and there's loads of women involved. Like you don't find this with Sunni Islam. Like this just never, look, they're all standing next to each other, smiling. It's like, hey, like this is how it should be. Like it should.
But how can they look at each other without being distracted by sexual thoughts and then doing wrong things? This is not supposed to function. Men cannot work this way. If a man sees a woman, sees the skin of a woman, he will get aroused and distracted and cannot
the devil will
focus
be the third one, right?
On the duties and all that. Yes, the devil will be there with what is this? What kind of nonsense is this?
Yeah, it's surprising, right? Like it's very progressive, right? Okay, one more last positive thing. So the Aga Khan community, what I meant to say was Aga Khan there's an Aga Khan development network. There's actually like this kind of like philanthropist organization that does tons of charity work. I was actually born in Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. So they have hospitals in Pakistan and Kenya. They have schools. In fact, many of my Pakistani friends went to Aga Khan school, university in Pakistan, right? So they do tons of good social work. Okay, that's a positive thing. This is kind of a funny incident that happened to my in Canada. So basically, Trudeau got in a lot of trouble. This is just something funny. This is not like really relevant to the religion, but this Aga Khan, which is basically the leader of Ismailis, that's his title, Aga Khan. He has a private island. He's a billionaire, okay? And he invited Trudeau to come and visit, but apparently he got in big trouble for this because this broke a bunch of like what's the word, like ethics laws. Basically, you're not supposed to accept a gift that's too big or whatever. But this guy, like, this is the type of power that Aga Khan has. He talks to like prime ministers and dignitaries, and he's a billionaire himself. He's very well connected with the in the world. So just wanted to show that as a kind of funny comment.
That is very nice. I mean, you have the sect has a leader who is not just some spiritual leader. He's actually a pretty rich guy who lives very bigly and comfortably, and who has the connections there. That is fantastic, right?
That's fantastic for him.
For him, yeah. I mean, that's
it's fantastic for him, yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so the Jamaat Khana, it's basically a gathering place. It's I don't know why they don't call it just mosque, but yeah, it's basically, that's an example of how it looks. There's side by side women and men. So again, progressive. It's not like the women at the back or the women upstairs or the women don't even have a space. In fact, I just saw a tweet from a Muslim lady that was saying she drove by like 14 mosques. I forget, there's someone in the US, and she said not one of them had a women's prayer area. Like, this is unheard of in Ismailism. Ismailism, you're side by side. Like there's a sort of barrier in between. You can see that, but for the most part, you're equals in the mosque, right?
Yeah, but how can you focus on worship when there are women next to you and you will be aroused? I mean,
And the interesting
common
thing is,
sense.
many Ismailis accept that, like, after the mosque ceremonies are done, you can go and mingle, you can meet girls there, like you can make friendships. And when I was Sunni, I was like, astaghfirullah. My stepmom was telling me, I'm like, this is terrible, sinful, horrible.
Wow.
Okay, so like I was saying, there's involvement of men and women. This is an example of, like, a lot of times a husband and wife couple would be running the mosque, right? Like it's the Jamaat Khana, where they do the ceremonies and stuff. I'll quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just to quickly go through the ritual to show you how different it is from Sunni Islam. First of all, there's the actual prayer. The 3 times ritual prayer is called the Holy Dua. Now, I forgot to put some examples of it, but basically it has 6 parts. The first part is Surah Fatiha. When you're praying, you're basically sitting cross-legged and you bow down after each part, but you don't bow down like sujood with your head touching down. You just kind of like bow down a little bit, like kind of like that, right? It's very different, like I said. The very last part of, and it has some excerpts from the Quran, the very last part of the Holy Dua is reading the names of all the Imams. Imam
Really?
Ali, Imam
Wow,
Hussein, Imam
that is funny.
Hassan, Hussein, Ali bin, I even forgot the names, Mustansir Billah, Jafar, Sadiq, Ismail ibn Muhammad ibn Hussein, and you read all 49 names, or
That
50.
is funny. That's funny. So
That's the actual prayer,
the
and it's
Salafis
done.
would consider that shirk, right? They would definitely consider that
Okay,
idolatry.
I will talk about the shirk. I consider this shirk too, which is why I left Ismailism. Again, it's going to sound kind of funny being an atheist. I'm taking sides now, but again, I said I have a Sunni bias. So that Sunni bias is going to come out. Then you have ginans. Ginans are like hymns. They're like basically written by peers like hundreds of years ago, I guess. And they're sung by either men or women. They're just like, I kind of even remember one. It's like Ya Shaji na na, like kind of like with that tone of voice, right? And it's sung in the mosque, right? And that's like considered like a religious thing. I used to read it too. I had no idea what I was reading. I'm just reading it. I think they're Gujarati. They're in Gujarati language. That's the next one.
Which is an Indian language, right?
Yes. And by the way, this is not an order. I'm just saying random things that you do when you go to the. One thing I'm going to tell you though, when I converted to Sunni, I actually missed the Khane, because the Khane was like it's so many things going on there. You go there, you're meeting people, you're doing things. Whereas when you go to the Sunni mosque, you go, you're praying, you bow down, you get up, you bow down, you get up, you bow down, you get up. You remember you had that in your video. You get up, go down, assalamu alaikum, and then you leave, right? And you chit chat with your friends, you leave, and you come back again, and you bow down, and you get up, you bow down. It's the same thing over and over and over again, and it's like.
You stand, you bow down, you stand, you go down, you sit, you go down, you stand, you bow down, you stand, you go down, you sit, you go down, you sit, you stand up, you bow down, you stand up, you go down, you sit. Okay, I'm just this will go on forever.
Yeah, and it's like okay. Let me tell you some more stuff that happens at the Khane, because, like I said, there's a lot more going on there, right?
Right, the
Khane. I call it Khane, Jamaat Khana, which is also called Khane, right. Which is basically the mosque, right? Okay. Then you have reading of Farmans. Farmans are basically the sayings of Aga Khan. They're like, yeah, this is too much fun. It is actually way more fun. It's way more fun. It's way more fun than Sunni Islam, for sure.
This reminds me of some certain Sufi practices. I mean, I was part of a Sufi order, and I see a lot of similarities already, like having a certain leader and a succession of leaders and all that. And Sufis also do this thing where they gather and, they do certain chantings and all that. And at the beginning or at the end of it or in the middle of it, they remember all the names of the awliya,
the chain.
Yeah, the chain of people from Muhammad to the guy that is among us now. Like, you recite them one by one by one by one. So there are some big similarities here that I see.
Actually, Ismailism is influenced by Hinduism and Sufism. So they consider themselves Ismailism. They consider themselves a tariqa. They call themselves a tariqa, actually. So yeah, there is similarities there. again why my Salafi vibes were going off when I became Salafi. I'm like, oh, this is all evil stuff, right?
Let's clarify. A tariqa means a path. In Sufi Islam, for example, a tariqa is a certain school or a movement of Sufi orders that you belong to or that you are devoted to. And apparently, in Ismailism, they also consider themselves a tariqa, a spiritual path. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, said it better than I could. So then there's leading of Farmans. Farmans are basically the sayings of Aga Khan, the leader. He basically says it to some Jamaat Khan or someone in the world, and then it's like recorded and edited, and then it's spread all over the world, and then people read it. So they lead his advice. And I'll give you some examples of what he would say. Now, they're supposed to be private only for Ismailis, not for, I mean, he has public ones as well, but the ones for Ismailis, like the ones I remember as a kid, were like, going to the mosque is very important. Going to Khane is very important. I mean, do well in school, do volunteer work, volunteer, be involved in a community. That's kind of like the things, never ever about hereafter. There's no mention of Jannah or Jahannam. It's all about like spirituality and being a good person. And that's basically what the Farmans are. And then so then after you're done with this, and then of course there's tasbih, you're saying Ya Ali, Ya Muhammad on the little beads, Ya Ali, Ya Muhammad, and then they say things like Ya Ali tu Raham ka, O Ali, have mercy on me. Now again, we're talking about the shirk, right? Like that is like shirk vibes, right? And then now listen, okay, then you drink this thing, you can see a picture of it. It's holy water, blessed by Aga Khan. He blesses the water. You pick it up, you say something, Farman, they say Ya Ali, Ya Muhammad, and you drink it. And you do this in Khane. Then they take that holy water and they sprinkle it on sukri, which is the sweets here, and then you eat that.
That's
blessed.
Funny.
So you get his blessings.
That is
You're
funny.
getting the blessings of Aga Khan. You're like,
Oh boy, that's funny.
And
is my microphone fixed? I just
it's
noticed because of a comment that I was using the wrong microphone all the time, the entire time. So I hope it's better now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually much better now. I was wondering about that. I was thinking with the camera things happening and maybe it was connected. There's an interesting comment here. It seems like Ismailism is almost like Catholic Islam and Sunnis are Protestants. I'm ex-Christian and Protestants say you were never Christian but Catholic. Well, Sunnism is older than Ismailism, so you can't really use that analogy of being Protestant because Protestant is protesting against the Catholic Church, right? There probably are some similarities, and maybe you can ask Khalil about that.
I would say it's significantly different, especially in terms of how they come into existence, their relevance one against the other. Significantly different, I would say, because they come from two different branches of Islam. They develop from two different branches. Sunni Islam comes from a certain branch, whereas Ismailism is an extension of Shia Islam, an offshoot of Shia Islam that has very specific practices that was at some point in history very, very dominant, but that's all there is to it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll quickly finish this so we can get to the more fun stuff. Okay. Then there's something called Nandi, which is amazing. I love this. Every Ismaili, when they cook food, not every Ismaili, I'm more exaggerating, but they cook food, they take apart a piece of it and they dedicate that to the mosque, right? To the imam. So that's kind of like a sacrifice sort of, right? And you can buy it. So they have an auction and you can buy delicious food at the mosque every single day. It's amazing. Like I used to love that. I used to go there and like, let's say your mom doesn't make the sweets, you can buy the sweets there and they have cookies and they have like rice and everything. And it's like, delicious food. So I used to love that. One more last thing I used to enjoy as an Ismaili was called bandgi. So in the mornings, they have meditation. You go early in the morning, like 5 o'clock. The mosque opens up, the Jamaat Khana, I mean, and all the lights are off. You sit there and you just meditate. And they have that as part of their religion. They have meditation. Sunni Islam has no meditation in it. It's just gone, even though I think it's very useful. But Ismailism has that. And the very last thing is taqiyya. Interesting thing about taqiyya is Ismailis did taqiyya back in the day, but they did taqiyya against other Muslims because other Muslims wanted to kill them.
Yeah.
So
The
this,
taqiyya really needs clarification very often. It's a thing. It's a very politicized term that people tend to misunderstand. But especially within the context of Shia Islam and Ismailism, for example, taqiyya is rather prominently something that people use, that Shia Muslims used, where they hide their identity or lie about what they practice and what they believe in because they want to protect their lives from the Sunni Muslims who could badly hurt them and persecute them. So it's basically a permission to conceal or to indirectly lie, as far as I understand, as far as I remember, in order to protect your own life.
yeah, exactly. Okay, and this is what you were
By
saying
the way,
earlier.
here's Khalil Andani, PhD, saying, for your information, when Ismailis say the names of 49 Imams in dua, they are praying to God through them. Allahumma bihaq Maulana Ali Maulana Hussein, oh God, by the right of so and so. I think
I
we
forgot
are.
about that actually.
Yeah, but that's the same thing in Sufism, for example. The same thing is done. You don't pray to these people, but you basically pray to Allah or to God through these people. So you are basically using them as a vehicle. The issue is that others, like the average Sunni Muslim or the Salafi Muslim, will basically perceive that as shirk, because according to them, you are not allowed to do that. You cannot do that. You're not supposed to do that. But I'm sure we will more deeply talk about this with Dr. Khalil Andani. I believe he will join me in a few very soon on this channel as well.
So yeah, like I was saying, the Ismailis ruled the Muslim world. So yeah, today they're 15 million, but at one point, like they ruled the Muslim world, and you mentioned that already. There's some interesting, funny, crazy sects that came out of Ismailism. One of them was the Kalmatians. And they actually stole they killed a bunch of Muslims in the Hajj. They stole the black stone. They smashed it to pieces. It's like wild. It's just like, can you imagine like a story like that? I thought this is some special rock that's supposed to be holy and sacred and protected. When I heard about it being smashed, I was like, how is that possible? I thought this thing is protected by Allah, and the elephant came and couldn't get it and this and that. But anyways, yeah, that's just.
Do they believe in the same? Do they believe in the sanctity of the black stone and things?
No,
like
I
that?
meant as a Sunni. No.
They don't have. Yeah, no. I'm just wondering. They probably don't have the same perspective of things as.
Yeah, and Khalil saying the Kalmati and the assassins are not the same at all. So these are two different groups. Just to clarify that the assassins was actually part of his mainstream Ismailis, I guess, whereas these guys were like extremists. They did a bunch of crazy shit. So yeah.
Yeah, crudely put. Many people actually don't know this, but the whole assassin thing comes from the root from the order of assassins, or as was the Assasiyun, is that what they were called?
Ashashiyun or something?
Yeah, which was an organization of assassins, and these were Ismaili Shia Muslims. So that's how that whole thing, the concept of assassin, became popularized.
Yeah. Okay, so now we get into like things I disagree with, Shia versus Sunni. And so the first thing is my issue, one of my first issues is that Muhammad didn't make it explicit who was going to be in charge, right? Like when he died, there was chaos, right? According to Shias, Ali was supposed to be in charge, and Muhammad made that clear. But the other caliphs, they weren't caliphs, but the other companions, they stole his authority and they became the rulers after Muhammad. So Abu Bakr, Uthman, and Omar, they all basically plotted against Ali. The thing is, Muhammad never made it clear when he died, right? If you talk to Shias, they have a lot of bad things to say about these people, because they think that they ripped off Ali from his rightful authority, right? And while Fatima and Ali were burying Muhammad, these guys were making plans to be the next Khalifa, right? And to be the next in charge. And of course, Islamic politics is a big mess. There's no real way of deciding who's going to be in charge, right? Like Sunni Islam. It's just like a bunch of people decide amongst themselves and everybody else has to agree with them, right? It's just chaos. It's just It doesn't make any
the
sense.
history of caliphates was a giant mess. It's the history immediately after Muhammad, the succession of his empire was a giant mess. And no matter what we say about it, no matter what kind of an opinion we give about it, it's just we are just going to add an opinion to this giant pool that caused the giant mess of the Sunni Shia conflict and the others who were outsiders and who were independent and so on. Muslims could not agree on this stuff from the very beginning, so our opinions on this issue would just be irrelevant very much.
Yeah, to me, this is one of the biggest problems with Islam, is that if it's from God, why is it such a mess? Why is it when Muhammad died, they had these huge amounts of apostasy? There was apostasy wars, Ridda wars, to try to bring people back to Islam because people refused to pay the zakat. People didn't want to, give authority to basically the new caliph, right? So to me, this is a big issue.
And there are a lot of thoughts about the whole Ridda wars that these are actually kind of misrepresented within Islamic history, that they were not very much apostasy wars, but that they were very much wars of Abu Bakr or the successor of Muhammad trying to assert their power over a territory of people who were merely bound to this empire because they were, conquered at some point, or because they were supposed to be subdued and conquered. So this empire did not fight, apostates. They fought people in order to make them a permanent part of their empire. But again, a big mess in Islamic history, in very early Islamic history.
Exactly, yeah. And then, of course, you had Aisha fighting against Ali, and, Ali had the wife of Muhammad as war booty. Like, this is insanity. Like, if anyone really thinks about it, and of course Muslim scholars don't like to talk about this, but like if anyone thinks about this just shows you how human the entire thing is. It makes no sense. This is this is the worst planning ever. The Quran wasn't even compiled, like it's just like when you're outside of it, it's so obvious. When you're inside of it, you just look at it, you're like, what? You're like, nah, this is fine. that meme of the house burning and the dog's like sipping his coffee. This is fine.
In 12th for Shia Islam, I think there's a lot of hate toward Aisha because of these conflicts. Is the same thing the case within Ismailis?
No, Ismailis don't care about these. I've never heard an Ismaili talk trash about. So with Ismailism, there's much less of a reference to the hadith, to the seerah. There is reference to seerah. Like I know the seerah. I knew the seerah as a Ismaili. My dad bought The Message. I don't know if you've seen The Message. Have you seen The Message?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad got that. We all watched it. We had a Quran in the house, but we didn't read it for guidance. So there is a reference point to the seerah, but there's not like Shias beating themselves and cursing the companions and cursing, Abu Bakr and cursing Aisha, and none of that really exists as part of the day-to-day in Ismailism. It's just not part of the religion. Is more focused on today, not on what happened 1400 years ago. So yeah. So now the interesting thing is, another thing I found interesting when I was just doing some research for this talk is this entire thing about imams. So I had an issue with Shiism in general because the 12 imams is, so with Shia, with Ithna Sharis, which is basically 12ers, they believe in 12 imams, as you know. Imam al-Mahdi, the 12th imam, is in hiding and he disappeared. I don't know if someone killed him and they just said he disappeared, or something happened. He fell down a well, or got eaten by koi. I don't know what happened to him, but he disappeared. But supposedly he's in a cave. He's going to come back. He's Imam al-Mahdi, and Shias are waiting for him, right?
There's even a term for that.
Imam al-Kashf or something like that.
Yeah, I thought there is a term which is supposed to describe this hiddenness that he is in, and the Shia Muslims all obviously believed back then that he's hidden and that he will come out quite soon. But a lot of time has passed. He still hasn't come out, but I bet he will come at some point.
Yeah, he's still in the closet. He's gonna come out at some point. Yeah. So now here's a funny thing. I don't know if I have a slide for this. Okay, maybe I don't remember if I do or not. But I have to remind you again, with Ismailism, it's all about hereditary. You pass on your Imam al-Ghaib. Okay, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
you pass.
Okay.
you pass on your spiritual power to the next imam. It's like you take the baton, whatever, and you pass it on, and then he takes it, so the spiritual authority and I guess political authority is passed on from imam to from parent to child or to grandchild, right? The interesting thing is when you look at the actual history, it seems to be quite a mess. With the 12ers, they split off from Ismailis. Ismailis had a different son who said was a rightful imam, the elder brother of Musa al-Khadim, right? The 12ers said no, it's the other son, and he's now in hiding. But the Ismailis continued the progeny further, right? So basically, they disagree on which is the rightful descendant. Okay, already there's a problem now. Now this is where this is a split. The split. Oh, what the? I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so this is a graph or like a chart I found on Wikipedia that shows you basically all of the Imam ibn Ali ibn Talib, Imam Hussein, Imam Ali bin Hussein, Muhammad al-Baqir, Jafar Sadiq, Ismail, Muhammad bin Ismail, and so on and on and on and on goes. So now you'll see even over here there was a split in 1094 where, hold on, let me just open up my notes. Basically, and Khalil can explain this way better if he gets into this, but again, it was an issue of succession, and I had notes on this. Where is it? Hold on one sec. Oh, here we go. So here's a dispute. Okay, there's a dispute here. The oldest son, Nizar, and by the way, the Ismailis today are called Nizari Ismailis.
Mm-hmm.
Nizar was considered to be his father's most likely successor, as was the custom. I'm reading from Wikipedia. Indeed, historians often state that Nizar had been his designated successor of the father. However, instead, a much younger half-brother of Nizar, al-Mustali, was raised to the throne and the imamate. So there was a conflict here, and basically there was a split, right? And it goes on and on, but basically, al-Mustali was recognized by the Fatimid establishment and the official Ismaili Dawah, and as well as the Ismaili communities in Syria and Yemen, and most of the Ismaili communities in the wider Middle East and Persia and Iraq rejected him. So basically, again, there was another split, right? So first you have the split with the 12 imams versus, the son, which son was supposed to be. And again, here you have another split where now basically, and I believe the other sects died out. And basically the Nizari Ismailis are the only ones that continued. Again, the Taibis, they have a hidden imam again. Again, maybe he fell down a well. I don't know what happened to him, but he's hiding or something.
This is such a mess. It gives me a headache, seriously.
This is apparently how God does his things, right?
Dr. Khalil Andani said Ismail's death or non-death, these reports all come from 900. So there are disagreements on who was designated as successor, Ismail versus Musa. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know much about this. Like I said, I did research just for this presentation.
Okay.
Khalil can give you a much better explanation. So this is, as I refer to him, His Highness or Hazir Imam, the Aga Khan, or as my father and I used to call him Mola Bapa. Mola Bapa means like spiritual father. He's the leader of the Ismailis, as I told you. Interestingly, I found it surprising. He's not allowed to marry an Ismaili woman. He's only allowed to marry non-Ismailis because he's like the father. He's like the dad. So dad can't marry his daughters. I don't know why they take it literally here. It's kind of weird, but apparently he
really is that that's interesting.
Now my dad told me that I used to when I went through my Sunni conversion phase, when I converted to Sunni, I asked my dad. I said, one thing that confused me as an Ismaili was why do we pray to Aga Khan when we can pray directly to Allah? Because I started reading the Quran, and the Quran says don't do this. Don't do shirk. Don't pray to other than Allah. Those idols that you pray to. Now, I'm not saying he's an idol, but I'm saying this is what it says, and this is how I interpret it. They can't answer you, right? So why are you praying? So I asked my dad. I said, why do we pray to this guy? He's like, well, he has knowledge of everything, and there's a verse in the Quran. Actually, let me hold on. Oh, there we go. It says right here, right? It's in Surah 36. It says and basically it's translated, and we have all things enumerated in a clear register, right? وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. They say Imam Mubin means the Imam. So the Imam has knowledge of everything. Jeez. Basically, he has knowledge of the unseen, right? This is what I was taught, that the Imam, it passed.
I love these insider jokes here. Yeah. Okay,
So
so
anyways, yeah, so this is basically this. The thing I had a problem with, I used to ask my dad, I said, why do we pray to Aga Khan? I don't understand. Because we could just pray to Allah directly, right? And he said, well, he's basically like sunglasses that you wear. You don't want to look at the sun directly, so you want to pray to him, to kind of like intercessor. But the thing is, it's basically to me it was like shirk, right? So I have a video just to show you what it looks like, and this is basically the Ismailis in Pakistan. And you can see they're all crying and praying, and they're all like overwhelmed with joy to see him. They're all very happy, right? You see the crying, and like this is I'm not going to use the word worship, but like when you said like cult vibes, that's the feeling you get when you like.
is it true that there is a thing? Do you know about this? That there's this whole idea that seeing him is like seeing the Kaaba, or visiting him is like doing Hajj or something like that. Is that a thing?
Yeah. So I was talking to Khalil about this as well, about the Hajj, and like so you can see here like what it's saying. Like this guy's praying in the video, "O Mola, show your benevolence to the weak and poor," right?
Okay.
Mola is basically Ali or Aga Khan, right? And okay, that's it. There's nothing else to show there. But like, yeah, basically, yeah. So basically, I don't know exactly. Sorry, what was the question?
I forgot.
I got distracted with the comment now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The whole thing. The whole idea that seeing him is like seeing the Kaaba, or visiting
Oh.
him is like going on pilgrimage or something. like that.
Well, you can see he's the focus of the religion,
Mhm.
right? The Kaaba is not that important in
Okay.
Ismailism. You can go for Hajj, like I said, but it's not really like. I mean, it's not a thing. Like, if you want to, you
who,
go,
who
but
cares
it's
about
not.
the Kaaba anyway?
Who cares about the Kaaba? Seriously, like
yeah.
it's
Screw the Kaaba.
yeah.
Uh,
So and this guy has his own issues. Like he has knowledge of everything, yet he's been to multiple marriages. I mean, he has a personal life. His first wife divorced, second wife divorced, and the only reason I'm bringing this is to show just how very human he is. This guy is the leader of all his Smileys. He's the one that tells people that you should be doing budgeting, or you need when there's a recession, you need to do this, study these fields. We need more women in STEM. I don't know if he said that, but I'm just making up stuff now. But like the point I'm trying to make is he has his own issues, yet and maybe it's unfair of me to say that, but like if you're treating him like he has knowledge of the unseen, like he's some special status in front of God, at least he shouldn't be having marital issues, right? And I know this is going to be seen as unfair when I'm saying, but this is a very human thing with cult leaders, is they are humans too. And Muhammad also had problems. Even though he was talking to God, right, he still had issues. Like we talked about this already, he has a lot of wealth, right? A lot of family wealth. This guy's a billionaire. He's one of the world's richest men. Where does his money come from? I have a link from Ismaili Gnosis website, which basically says that I didn't talk about this yet, but every Ismaili gives 1/8 of the income, net income, I guess, to Aga Khan. So my dad every check 12.5%. Every paycheck he got of $500, he would take out like $125, put it in an envelope, and drop it off at the Khani.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and some people give more. Some people give 25%. And they're like in a special club, right? They're 25% club. But like everybody's supposed to give 12.5%. According to this Ismaili website, which I think Khalil, works on, it doesn't come from that disowned. It comes from family wealth. That's like so basically this. But to me, it feels like Aga Khan or this guy is obviously enriched by the fact that he has 15 million Muslims, Ismaili Muslims that follow him, right? And so he has his wealth, he has his horse racing, horses and all that stuff. In my opinion, it's all a big scam. Like none of this is good for, in my opinion, good for humanity. Yes, they do a lot of good things, and I did recognize and mention all the good things they do, but I also think that at the end of the day, like this is just a big scam, right? I mean, I'm atheist, I don't believe in any religion, but when I see this, I feel like Ismailis, when you see them crying and this and that, it's just like what are you crying to? The guy has his own issues. Like you guys are basically praying to him to do this and do that for you, but he can't even solve his own problems, right? And this is another issue I have with Ismailism versus Sunnism. In Sunnism, did people pray to the Prophet? Did they pray, "Oh Muhammad, save my child and give me this blessing"? Did they do that? I don't know if they did that. Like, I don't think they did that.
I think that the worst thing they do, okay, it differs very much in Sufism. Within Sufism, you could say that there are certain things that are kind of messed up, that don't really align very well with the mainstream Sunni ideas. But at worst, I think within mainstream Sunni Islam, they will ask for intercession from Muhammad, and
Sila,
for
right?
for intercession, that he jumps in and says, "Hey, this guy is a good guy. Please forgive him," and all that, and Allah will, will let him jump in and do his job and all that.
So,
But that's the worst. That's the most important thing that they do in terms of invoking Muhammad, and then also sending salawat and all that to Muhammad during the prayer, which some would interpret as a distraction from worship to Allah, but that's all there is.
yeah. So Khalil is rightfully saying that the billions of dollars of charity that they do is that a scam too? And no, obviously I think it's good. It's good that they're doing this, but I think the entire premise of this is based on a lie. It's based on the fact that this guy is a hereditary. So here's another thing with the hereditary thing. The 12 Imams is not mentioned anywhere in the Quran. Okay, we're gonna get to this. Let's talk about this.
I
Okay.
find it nice that he married an English woman and then a German woman.
So check this out. This is a proof for Shias that Ali is supposed to be in charge. There's a hadith and it's called the Ghadir Kum incident, where basically Muhammad said something to the effect of, anyone who has me as his mullah, that has Ali as his mullah. And Shias and Ismailis use this verse 567 as proof of this. It says, "O messenger, announce that which has been revealed to you from your Lord. And if you do not, then you have not conveyed his message, and Allah will protect you from the people. Indeed, Allah does not guide the disbelieving people." Okay, so this is basically threatening Muhammad. You better tell them what you're supposed to tell them. And Shia say, what does Shia say?
What did she say? Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was just looking at the
What does
chat.
Shia say? Shia say that this verse, pay attention, this verse is talking about Muhammad telling the people that Ali is supposed to be the next caliph, or supposed to be in charge, spiritual successor, whatever, right? Now, the interesting thing is, let's look at that context for this verse. I'm going to be a theologian now. I'm going to be a sheikh.
Oh no.
The verse before it is talking about Christianity and Judaism. Of only they upheld the Torah and the gospel. Now, this is the verse, okay, that Shias are saying is about Imams, Ali. The verse after that, "O people of the scripture."
Okay.
This, hello, it's obviously not talking about that. But anyways, I'm done being a theologian. Let's get back to there's still so much stuff talking about.
But obviously, you can interpret anything that is in the Quran as a subtle message that corresponds with the beliefs that you hold.
Yes,
that's how you use religious scripture.
Yeah. So anyway, so I do think that, isn't this a guy that totally didn't bribe Trudeau with a free vacation while trying to get a contract with the Canadian government? Yeah, that was a slide we had earlier, right? About he got in trouble.
Can't blame him. I mean, he looks like a nice guy. Look at that smile. He looks like a very nice guy. So I totally trust him.
This one, right?
Yeah. I would join this organization probably.
I actually thought about.
Do they also require? Are you also required to take the Shahada when you become part of this?
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I could have been. I thought about being like an agnostic Ismaili, but I just can't deal with this. Like this part of this stuff. Like this. Like I don't want to call it worship, but like this venerance, towards the Imam. Okay, so a couple more things about Ismailism. Ismailism is very inner focused. I think that's so obvious. Sunnism is very legalistic, fiqh, Sharia, like this and that, right? And he gives lots of money to charity. They do lots of charity work. Like I said, I was born in Aga Khan Hospital. Mm-hmm. I've been to this beautiful. There used to be a dump site in Egypt that was converted into the most beautiful park I've ever seen in Egypt. So I've been to Egyptian local parks when I was visiting Egypt. They're like, meh. But the Aga Khan, the Ismaili built park, in Egypt, in I think Cairo, was amazing. It had waterfalls, it had like vending machines, it wasn't like it didn't feel like I was in Egypt. Let's just put it like that. It was beautiful. It was like marble, and like there's a lot of emphasis on architecture in Ismailism. They love architecture, they love this stuff. I again, batin versus zahir. This is like, again, if you ask an Ismaili about the things in the Quran, they'll say you have to look for the hidden meaning, the inner meaning. It's all about being esoteric. Again, Sufism vibes, eh?
Yeah. In Sufism, there's a big emphasis on the whole batin versus zahir, where we are supposed to have this deep spiritual outlook on things and spend our time in the spiritual realm very much and stuff like that.
And guess who has the authority, and guess who is the best person to interpret the Quran in Ismailism?
Of course, the guy himself.
Exactly.
The guy
You
with
got
the
it, right?
nice smile. Yeah.
They have their own like he has access to information or knowledge. Like I said, this light of Allah somehow is passed on from generation to generation. And sometimes it's not even the son, it's a grandson. Sometimes you have multiple sons and he picks one. How does that work? How does God's light pass on through, like, does that make any sense? I mean, maybe I shouldn't try to make sense out of it, but it is what it is. And again, Ismailism, I'm going to add a disclaimer here, is why do I not talk about Ismailism? That should be like a good question. I should have talked about this in the beginning. The reason I don't talk about Ismailism is because it doesn't bother me. There's no apostasy law in Ismailism. Ismailis are not going out saying you should be killed. Ismailis, like even if I talked about Ismailism, they just get mad at me and that's it. And that would be the end of it. They wouldn't do this stuff because there's the bad stuff's all coming from 1400 years ago, and Sunnism is basically trying to bring that today. Whereas Ismailism is modern. It's like, it's up to date. It's reformed. It doesn't have these issues. It has better women's rights. Like I said, women can be like imams or whatever you call them, right? Like mukis, right? You don't have that in Sunni Islam. So that's why I don't talk about this stuff. But since you asked me, and since you're having Khalil on later and we're having a conversation, yes, I think it's also equally false. Just like Sunnism is false. You know, like the spiritual authority. Muhammad,
it is more false. I'm sorry. You see the whole thing here. I mean,
which one's more false? Which one's more false?
Ismailism is more false.
It's more false? How is it more false?
It's more false. I'm sorry. It's based on a corruption of the Islamic beliefs and the text. It is an absurd. Just kidding. So it looks like it's just an extreme. It's an extreme opposite, or the opposite extreme of what the Salafi understanding and the Wahhabi traditions and currents today are. They focus very much, and have in the past very much focused on reading the scripture, applying it into, as the law, being literalist very much, and being very much
legalistic,
focused on legalistic, applying the law, making sure that everybody follows the damn law. That's their focus. And if somebody over there has fun, if somebody seems like they are not following the law, then they are to be condemned and they are to be harshly punished. This is like the focus of the Salafi movement, to keep everything at the fundamentals and to violently and strictly prevent everyone from going astray from the fundamentals. But whereas in Ismailism, there is just, as it seems, completely the opposite the case. They don't focus very much on the whole literalism and the legalistic aspect at all. They just go with the times while being on a spiritual journey through time, I guess.
Yeah. So my opinion is I can't say one is more false than the other. And the reason why I used to think this way is because I used to take for granted that all of the hadith were true. If we take, if we apply the same skepticism to the hadith, and that at that point, and then you start to look at things and basically the fact that every single verse in the Quran needs to be interpreted by a human being, and even the rules of interpretation, varied from like scholar to scholar, and even the language has changed, and because of all of these things, I can't really say that one is more correct than the other. I would say they're all manifestations of this man-made religion. To me, they're man-made. So they're all manifestations of Islam. It's just that, some maybe are more closely to, some of them make assumptions. That
I want to make a small correction here. I mean, Dr. Andani said Wahhabism and Salafism began recently. It's more of an innovation historically. I'm aware, but thank you for the input. The thing is, I, like many others, make a generalization and kind of use certain terms interchangeably, I guess. When I say Salafi, I'm not merely referring to the Salafi movement. I'm actually more broadly referring to the whole the Athari school, the Athari theological school in general, which is, very old, and maybe to its roots, to the Hanbalis. I mean, Ahmad ibn Hanbal had very, very radical views on preserving the religion and all that. So I would say this is 1,000-year-old current within Islam, the fundamentalist traditionalist approach. Salafis are merely a very new revivalist form of that current, I would say, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, so that's all I have to share. So I don't really have anything else
That's it?
on the I mean, like I was saying, the funny thing is I don't have on my new channel, I don't have a single video about Ismailism, again, because if people were listening, that it's not as bad. It's actually quite, in some ways, good for the world. Although I do think the foundation is false of all of them. I do think that people are better off without religion. That's my personal opinion. I mean, we can debate that, we can argue that. Talking about the money here, the dason, the 1/8, which they consider a type of zakat that you give to the imam, to the mosque. My dad, I mean, there's also, this is not maybe part of the religion, but my dad used to say, like, if you don't pay that, like, bad things can happen to you. Like, you have to pay this, like some sort of, like, I don't know, hit by light. I don't know what he meant by that, but like, if you do it, good things happen to you. Blessings come in your life. Like, you get blessed. Let me just say one more last positive thing about Ismailism is when my dad died, and he did die a couple of years ago, the Ismaili community took amazing care of the burial. They took care of everything. And Ismailis have this cool thing that you pay every month. I don't know, like $50 or something, and you get basically a plot of land in the Ismaili graveyard. I don't know if it's Ismaili graveyard or they have a section for Ismailis, but like, they took care of everything. Like, but the one bad thing happened actually at the funeral, which was I tried to take a picture of my dad. Like, he was laying in his grave. He looked so beautiful, so peaceful. He literally reminded me of Malcolm X. That's the image that came to mind. He looked like a shaheed because he's all wrapped in white. I mean, that's the best word that comes to mind, shaheed, and like a martyr. I want to take a picture of him. They have a rule: no pictures allowed of dead people. I don't know why, or the burial or whatever. And they made me delete the photo. Like, I was a young man grieving his father who just died. It was just an innocent photo of him. And those, mofos made me delete it. And like, and to this day, I'm still sour about that.
It's
so useless.
It's your own father. I mean, it's
so stupid. And the thing is, because I had people there that cared about him, I didn't want to make a scene. I deleted it. But I was angry. I just felt like, what kind of stupid shit is this? Like, why is this dogma? Like, why are you robbing a son of the last photo of his father?
Yeah.
Like, how dare you? Like, screw your religion. That's what I felt like saying. Like, I didn't say anything. I mean, I was but I was crying. I was upset about it. And I mean, that's maybe not the best way to end this on a sad note, but like, I felt robbed. I felt like cheated out of it. They did good. They buried him. They took care of all of it. He believed he was going on a journey. Like I said, Ismailis don't the hereafter concept is very different. It's some sort of spiritual existence. Like, there's a lot of things in Ismailism that are very different. Like, this thing, the hereafter is very different. The idea of the Quran is different as well. Like, you as you know, we didn't even read the Quran for guidance. It's considered the inspired speech of God through Muhammad. Kind of, to me, sounds kind of like what they say about the Bible. Inspired speech of Muhammad, right? Or something like that. I'm not even know if I'm saying it right, but yeah, there's some big.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it is your own father. It's like, it shouldn't be up to them to decide what you do with that. It's kind of it's pretty bad. If you had my personality, you would have probably said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to delete it." But yeah, whatever. That's just me.
So yeah, so that's it. That's the conversation. It'll be interesting to see the differences. I know that, again, like, Ismailis, again, the good people overall. I don't have any issues with Ismailism. If you see my messages, what? But I do have a problem with the religion, right? And no jellyfish hoodie. There's no hoodies. There's no concept of.
What?
It's so different.
What the hell? What is the point?
Jellyfish. Actually, that's a good point. They are like jellyfish. I didn't think about that.
Yes, they're transparent. What is the point of following this religion if you're not going to get these celestial women in heaven and all that?
Yeah.
But that makes no sense. That's why you believe in Islam. That's why you follow the religion. That's why you practice the religion, because you want to get eternal celestial prostitutes in heaven. That's why religion is a thing. That's what I learned as a Muslim, as a Sunni Muslim. So it doesn't make sense to me at all that you don't have the divine women in, or the divinely made women in paradise. That's simply ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like, I mean, the fact that it doesn't seem to have these big problems, these big social legal problems, these big political problems, it seems good. Mostly, I don't care if people believe in something, no matter how much I think it is false. I appreciate and I sympathize with their desire to believe in that certain thing. So, in that case, with the Ismailis, I would say, I mean, go ahead if you want to believe. Seeing how they are completely different from the average Sunni Muslim, seeing how they seem to be much happier in this world and much more willing to adapt to the world around them, I would say, I mean, it looks quite nice. Okay, there is this cult-like behavior, there are the cult vibes, and that is bad. But at least, as far as I understand it, they don't have similar behavior which you see in certain cults like Islam, or in certain cults like, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses or other movements where if you leave the faith or if you leave the cult, then you become shunned or even threatened, or, you know, whatever it is. That, I guess, doesn't exist within Ismailism, right?
No, but to be honest, when I converted to Sunnism, I felt like Ismailism was a watered down version of Islam.
That's what you would feel, yeah.
That's what it felt like, because there's not, none of that hardcore stuff is there. It's just like, you know, yeah.
That is very, very interesting. Cogito ergo said, wow, I'm converting. Why? What are you converting for? I don't understand.
He's converting to Ismailism, he means.
Yeah, but why? There are no virgins.
Oh.
Yeah, Khalil Andani said no punishment. Yeah, see, that's nice. If they don't have this whole persecution of former members' behavior, which you see in many different cults, and you also see in mainstream Islam, I mean, I don't really have much against it, except the fact that it seems it seems to be built on false premises that I would certainly not believe in. Other than that, I don't care if people believe in, you know, different things. I would grant it. I wish the entire Muslim community was Ismaili. I wish I wish all the Muslims in the world were Ismaili Muslims when you look at this. Or maybe it would be different if all of them were Ismaili Muslims. I don't know. Maybe that would end up being very dangerous. But, you know, I would prefer their mentality and their attitude and their behavior and their practices to the mainstream Sunni Islam that we have in the world. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that because of the progressive Imam path, and because there's a living Imam, the Muslim community would be way better off if it was. I mean, even if you look at, like, for example, Ahmadis, they have. I don't know about this. Ismaili women can't attend the burial. I know Sunnis women don't go. But I don't know. I don't think that's right about Ismaili women can't attend the burial. My stepmother came for the burial.
In Sunni
my mom
Islam,
was there too, I think. Yeah, and Sunni Islam is. I was actually shocked.
It's considered wrong for women to
I
go
was
to
shocked when I learned that. I was like, that's the weirdest thing ever. Women don't go to the burial? Like, what?
There is a hadith, right, where women are. It says in figurative language they're ripping their things or whatever, screaming, and then Muhammad basically disapproved of that severely, and which is why women are not allowed to go to the burials.
Everything in Islam, everything that Muslims have to do has to deal with some random person, what they did in front of Muhammad.
Just don't do something wrong in the presence of Muhammad, or it will become haram for the Muslims. It's like...
It's crazy. Like, you know, it's just like, you know, it's that butterfly effect. The smallest little thing that happened back then is like affecting billions of people today.
Yeah.
because it's just like, yeah, Muhammad codified it into, and Muslim scholars and everybody made it into the religion, which is just like, ugh.
Well, and he said you shouldn't, ask him things because it will be made haram, or there will be a revelation about that, and then it will be all your fault. I mean, that's basically what he said.
Yeah.
So, sicko. Um, all right. Ghost of Reckon, we already read that. Myth Vision podcast, that super chat for the great guest, and for your family, AP. Yeah, thank you so much, Myth Vision. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you here again soon. All right. I will have another stream about this very topic with Dr. Khalil Andani. I kind of wanted to have you here. Just tell me this more of a of an experience, life experience, non-expert perspective, because I think it's quite valuable. And then I also wanted to have him on here since he is still practicing, I think, and
Oh yeah,
member of it, and he's a professor of the matter.
yeah. He's been on Clubhouse recently defending Ismailism against Salafis. Salafis are out to get him. He had a big back and forth with some of those Salafi guys. So yeah, like I said, honestly, I'm just a big plug for Dr. Khalil Andani. I do like him. I do like Khalil. We've had a disagreements in the past, but I think that he's a valuable asset to the Muslim world. I feel like this. I think academia in general is something that the Muslim community needs. It's going to bring the Muslim community forward, and I do think that he in particular is an asset. We, even though we disagree on a lot of things, I think we agree on a lot of things too. We agree on some of the views that he has on hadith, for example, or like obviously he's not in favor of killing apostates and stuff like that. So he's actually a very refreshing, progressive individual, regardless of being Ismaili or not being Ismaili. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation with him as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I like the friendliness here. Riley Kitcher said, "Did you hear about the Sunni and Shia in Afghanistan with the Pashtun and Hazaras?" What was it, Alexa? I think Alexa just said something. Quiet, Alexa. No one is talking to you.
No, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that happened recently, but there was a history in Afghanistan with the Hazara are a minority group of Shia Muslims in Afghanistan, and the Taliban did commit big atrocities against them, and that may be called genocides. Tried to eradicate the Hazara people in the past who are Shia. Not sure if that is still going on, but yeah. So that is a big problem. Let's see.
There's a comment here. Is way back. Just if you don't mind, I can just read it.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, he's like, Abdul Muiz bin Muhammad, why a friendly Muslim, ex-Muslim, may the content you made for Muslims be a shield for you, brother, and hopefully you find your way back before everything goes gray and wrinkled. So yeah, it's a nice comment, and thank you. Obviously, I've said this before. There's no way back. Like, it's so obviously not from God. How would I go back to Islam? I don't understand. The more, like, especially when you become a content creator and you like research this stuff, you just find more and more issues. It's not that one thing that you looked up and you're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. You're doing research on it for like a long time, and you're engaging with people for how many years? Since 2016, I've been doing this. I've been engaging with people for 5 years. How would I go back to this now? It doesn't make any sense.
Ram Runner said Lord Buddha, you're a Buddhist? Lord Buddha's last words included an explicit request that he has no successor. Hence, there was very, very little sectarian violence in Buddhism.
But Buddhism is non-violent by definition.
Yeah, I mean, non-violence is praised even in times of war. And as far as I understand, the thing is with Buddhism, we very much don't have any proper credible reference on what he actually said. It's very highly doubted, the things that can actually be traced back to him. But as far as you understand his message, what I always ask myself is, would he have wanted to be venerated like this as he is today at all. It seems like he was rather somebody who was
The opposite.
on a path of of seeking and finding and getting rid of his own importance and ego in total, and also
You
giving
nailed
that
it.
to all the others. So kind of venerating him in that sense seems like the opposite of what he actually wanted. But
Yeah.
that's just me as a terrible.
But wasn't
non-Buddhist.
he a Muslim? Wasn't he actually a prophet of Islam?
Shut up. Ahmadis actually believe that. Right? They actually believe that the Buddha was a prophet.
Yeah, I don't see how that's possible, considering like Buddhism's more like Hinduism than Islam. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
what they teach is like the opposite.
yeah.
Instead of religions in heaven, it's just like become one with the universe. Like what?
Yeah.
How is that even connected to Islam?
I mean, there were certain things within Sufism that I appreciated and today still kind of appreciate, which are this whole finding peace within yourself and getting rid of your ego and your desires and all that. It's all kind of nice and good and all that. But then once I started diving into Buddhism, I realized, dude, Sufism is nothing in comparison. Buddhism is the real spiritual journey.
I think they all have like pieces of this mindfulness and this spirituality. I think it exists in all the religions in some form or another. But yeah, I do think that the parts of Buddhism, the mindfulness parts are really useful, and it can be extracted out of Buddhism without the dogma. You don't need to believe in karma. You don't need to believe in reincarnation. You don't need to believe in any of this. You can just do the meditation. You can just do the mindfulness. Just enjoy every drop of food, and be in the moment and experience things properly. And I think all of that you can do without the dogma, which is it's more. I guess I would agree with you that it's most clear in Buddhism. I would agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's helpful for some people to hold on to something, because when you realize that you're just doing this for yourself, it's not the same as doing it for a specific purpose that you think you are supposed to follow. Insofar, I kind of sympathize with religious, or spiritual beliefs and ideas and commitments and all of that. I'm not an anti-theist. I'm sorry.
And the thing I like about Buddhism is a non-profit religion. There's no God in Buddhism. There's no God. There's no idea of God in Buddhism. It's just. And the cool thing about just the teaching, it honestly was a paradigm shift. Again, I'm not talking about Buddhism, but just mindfulness. But like the mindfulness thing to me was like a mind explosion when I realized meditation is not about doing nothing. It's about being in the moment and focusing on the moment. When I realized that, I'm like, wow, this is really different than what I thought. It's not what I thought, that when you're meditating, you're trying not to think, and then you end up thinking even more. But it actually has, a calming effect. It actually has health benefits. Obviously, if you don't overdo it and go into a cave for months and start seeing angels squeezing you like a ketchup bottle, like Black Angel said. But yeah, I think there is benefits to it. But of course, assuming you're not psychotic or have some sort of like issues, eh?
There's a what is that called, man? There's a thing. Is that the parable of the poisoned arrow? Something in Buddhism that I find just so interesting. I forgot what it actually leads to, but it's kind of a thing.
Well, since we're trading stories, there's a story about I don't know if it's a Zen Buddhist story, but there's a monk, like a senior monk, and there's like a junior monk, and they're walking, right? And they get to a river, right? And there's this like young hot lady at the river, and she's like, and like, what's going on? She's like, I'm stuck, right? I can't get across, right? So the old man picks her up on his back, carries her across the water, and they keep going, right? And the young monk is like, what the hell? This is haram, right? And he's like, thinking, and eventually, like, after like maybe a day of walking, he's like, can I ask you something? Like the old man was like, yes. He's like, why did you carry her on your back? He's like, bro, I let it off back there. You're still carrying her, right? You're still carrying her to this point in time. Like I dropped her off already. So that was a kind of cool story. I like those Zen stories where they're like a contradiction that you can't solve, and they make your mind explode because it doesn't make sense.
What I find so interesting about Buddhism is that it has this whole thing, like there's this concept of the unanswerable questions. I know we're completely going off track right now about
Yeah.
Buddhism, but I just find it so interesting. It focuses on this whole idea that there are questions in life that you simply cannot know the answer to, and if you get stuck trying to find the answers to these questions, you will simply, you will waste your life away worrying about something and only increasing your suffering and the suffering of others. And this is even so much related to certain philosophical ideas, like absurdism, that developed only very recently. And Buddhism kind of recognizes and identifies that much of the suffering in life experienced by humans is a result of humans trying to find answers to questions that they simply cannot answer, that they will never find an answer to. So in terms of the whole thing, like what was there before life, what happens after death, what is outside of this world, what will happen after the world is gone, and so on, these are all questions that are not answerable and that you are not supposed to concern yourself with. Instead of bothering about what was before and what will happen after, you are supposed to treat yourself. Usually, and I think the comparison here, the parable here is, don't focus on how the medicine is made and how the medicine works. Focus on applying the medicine instead, because and all of that is a waste of time. Try to live in a good way instead of wondering about what was before or what will happen afterwards.
Brother,
That's a very nice way.
Quran is the best medicine.
Yeah. Wait, let me read this quickly. So here's the just because I'm so curious about this right now, I think this is the thing that I'm remembering. One of the parables in Buddhism. Here, let me put it on the screen directly to read this together. I'm completely diving into this, not sure if this is actually it, but the parable of the poisoned arrow. This is what came to my mind. The sutta begins of Yatavana, where the monk silence on the four answerable questions. He says if he fails to respond, will renounce his teachings, whatever. Gautama responds by first stating that he never promised to reveal ultimate metaphysical truths, such as those, and then uses the story of a man who has been shot with a poisoned arrow to illustrate that those questions are irrelevant to his teachings. It's just as if a man were wounded with an arrow thickly smeared with poison. His friends and companions, kinsmen and relatives, would provide him with a surgeon, and the man would say, I won't have this arrow removed until I know whether the man who wounded me was a noble warrior, a priest, a merchant, or a worker. He would say, I won't have this arrow removed until I know the given name and clan name of the man who wounded me, until I know whether he was tall, medium, or short, until I know whether he was dark, ruddy brown, or golden colored, until I know his home, village, town, or city, until I know whether the bow with which I was wounded was a longbow or a crossbow, until I know whether the bowstring with which I was wounded was fiber, bamboo threads, sinew, hemp, or bark, until I know whether the shaft with which I was wounded was wild or cultivated, until I know whether the feathers of the shaft with which I was wounded were those of a vulture, a stork, a hawk, a peacock, or another bird, until I know oh my god, here. Until I know whether the shaft with which I was wounded was bound with the sinew of an ox, a water buffalo, a langur, or a monkey. He would say, I won't have this arrow removed until I know whether the shaft with which I was wounded was that of a common arrow, a curved arrow, a barbed, a calf-toothed, or an oleander arrow. The man would die, and those things would still remain unknown to him. Like, this is kind of a summary, but when I read this and when I studied this, I thought, man, this is actually so deep. I never learned anything like this in Islam,
Yeah, exactly. Then in the Quran, they have stories of the guy that was killed, and they took a piece of meat and they put on the meat on him, and he came back to life and told them.
Yeah.
And then you have the story of Khidr, the beautiful story of Khidr, where he killed a little boy, and then apparently it's because the boy was going to grow up into be a bad man.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some stories like that. Not quite the same.
What about this terrible story, which still boggles my mind to this day? Even when I was a Muslim, and even when I was religious, I thought, isn't that story kind of weird? Where apparently in the times of the Jews, according to Muhammad, there was this man who killed 100 men or was it 99 men, or who killed 100 men? And then he was looking for an answer, and he was trying to, he goes to a certain religious person and says, how can I get rid of my burden? And then that religious person doesn't give him a proper answer, so he kills that guy too, until he comes to a religious person who says, go to this and this and this place, then you will be rid of your sins and you will find salvation, or whatever it is. I don't know, I don't remember the exact wording. So he is, after killing 100 people, he is on his way to this place where he can be forgiven and where he can get rid of his evil. But on the way he dies, and then Allah sends his angels, and what they do, the angels, they check the path that he was on, and they find that between the starting point and his arrival, he was just, above the.
He was a little bit behind, right?
Was he, or he was a little bit, in front of the middle path, or whatever it is, and for whatever reason, they then forgive him. Is that how this?
Yeah, I think it said Allah stretched. Am I mixing it up? He moved the land, or he stretched the land to make him closer.
Yeah,
because he didn't quite make it or something.
Yeah. But the point of the story is that this guy is a brutal murderer who kills a bunch of people, kills 100 people, and then he just goes to a place where he wants to be forgiven and where he wants to stop killing people, and then he's forgiven because he was halfway there. And it's like, it never made sense to me back then. This guy killed 100 people, but he's forgiven now because he just wanted to go somewhere. I mean,
well, I think the idea was he was repenting. He was like, but sorry for that.
But the thing is, I understand that is the message. But just because you wanted to repent, because you wanted to believe, because you wanted to find the truth, you are just forgiven like that after killing 100 people. Whereas people like you and me who never, hurt people, we will be eternally punished and we will never be forgiven because we just didn't seek forgiveness. I mean, isn't that a little bit messed up? And I didn't understand this when I was a Muslim, and I still feel like that's very messed up,
That's assuming I actually didn't kill 100 people.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Of course I didn't.
We will never know. All right. Oh yeah, here. That's the thing. He also killed more people as he was repenting. According to the story, yes, because he goes to a guy and he asks for repentance, and the guy says, I can't help you. What the hell? So he kills that guy too. So while he's trying to repent, he kills more people, but he's still forgiven in the end. It's
such truth is saying, do you know that I'm curious if you know that it is a child that'll grow up to be a non-Muslim. So he's saying Khidr killed that child because he was going to grow up to be a non-Muslim.
Oh, well,
that's even worse than what I said.
Good riddance.
I said he's going to grow up to be a bad person. But like you're saying, he's growing up to be a kafir, so he killed him. So what? It's like apostasy law in advance.
Good riddance, yeah.
No, it's like future. It's like you kill them before they leave Islam.
Well, because he can travel in time. He goes back he goes wherever he wants. So
what's the point of having the baby? Why would Allah create the baby and then kill him? Like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
anyways,
we
went off topic a bit from Ismailism.
Anyway, so I think I really enjoyed this discussion. Actually, this conversation.
Thank
it was
you.
Kind of fun.
I did too.
Yeah. Especially the Buddhism part. I really enjoyed that. No, sorry for going so much off track. I just found it very interesting.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Tanya Van Kassel said, thousands of religions all claiming all the others are wrong. Thank you for your input, Tanya Van Kassel. You are still here after all these years. I really appreciate it. It's very nice to see your name here. But yeah. Okay, I think we can go. Wait, who made a super chat? Somebody made a super chat. Who's that?
Can we, after you do the super chat, can we plug my new channel?
Yes, sure, we can.
Yeah.
Runner said, I highly recommend Being Peace by Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, a friend of Martin Luther King. No need to convert to Buddhism to gain from it. I will take that recommendation. I read a few Buddhist books by Shantideva. I read Shantideva teachings and certain others. But yeah, I appreciate that. I will check it out. All right. So everybody, please go subscribe to Abdullah Samir's channel, which is his new lower channel that just reached 20,000 views. It's called Friendly Ex-Muslim, right?
Yes. Yeah.
He's doing some great content, contributing to a lot of bigotry and all that. So please, please go and subscribe. It is right there in the description box down there. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Abdullah?
No. That was it. That's good. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation. Again, other than one video I did on Ismailism in the last 6 years, this is the first time I'm like really talking about it. So it's fun. It was great to share like, some of my childhood experiences and, more about the religion, and it was a good experience. Thank you for having me on, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes with Khalil, with Dr. Khalil, part 2.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Search for Truth said, great show, you guys. I respect you so much for all you do. Thank you so much, Search for Truth. I really appreciate it. And finally, Jihadi Tears made another super chat here. Didn't add any comment, but I appreciate it. He's letting people shed tears. That's good. Jesuit Crook said, it's a Gnostic cult, really, from what I see. Nice perspective. I didn't actually think about that. Gnosticism in connection to Ismailism. I might even.
Yeah, you should ask Khalil about that too.
Yeah,
I see the connection to with Gnosticism. I
didn't think about it before, but now that you say it, I actually kind of. Yeah, I would ask Dr. Khalil about that, what he thinks. Arasen74 made a super sticker, which I cannot see in my thing, but it says here, bravo. That looks nice. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. Before more super chats come in and people waste their money on us, I will I will end the show here and leave. Thank you so much, Abdullah, again for joining me. Hope to have you back again very soon. Thanks, everybody. I will see you very, very soon. Have a fantastic day or night or whatever you have wherever you are. And as always, stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Ismailism.
No, stay away from Islam.
All right, bye.